Hi, I'm Matt from CreateYourGoodLife.com. As you can see, we're pretty much in the depths of winter now. It's pretty cold here, it's July in Melbourne, so I'm starting to look to see how I can go about protecting some of the more fragile plants that I've got in my garden. Behind me there's an eggplant that I had grown during the summertime. What I'm trying to do is get it so that it survives the winter, so that next year it gets a bit of a head start, so that we're not waiting till later in the year for the eggplants to grow. Now, there's a couple of options you can take when protecting your plants. The first one that I've done here is I've got a bit of straw, basically, and I've protected the eggplant. You can see behind me here, okay, I've just piled up a load of straw around the eggplant itself, just to make sure that it doesn't get the frost actually developing on the branches. Now, the branches that are poking through are pretty much dead, but if you pull away the stuff here, you can see deeper down we've got green stems that are actually surviving fairly well. Now, I'm hopeful that this is going to last. We're just going to have to see. Hopefully it'll make it through the winter. It's a bit of an experiment and we'll just see. Other alternatives that you've got, you can do what I've done here. You can put one of these little mini greenhouses over some of the plants that you've got. Now, what we're looking at here is I've got some capsicums in here, or sweet peppers, depending on which part of the world you're in. And I think that they're going to survive pretty well in there. They've been chopped back, so they're looking a bit scrawny now, but I think they should do fairly well. These ones here are Thai chilies that I've overwintered quite successfully before, but I'm hoping that this portable greenhouse here is going to actually have a wind barrier effect, because it seems to be the wind that bothers these more than anything. Okay, so that's some of the options that you've got. What we're going to do now is switch to another part of the garden which talks through another form of protection that you can use. Okay, so this next option we're going to run through is probably better if you've got some actively growing crops, particularly something that's growing in a row. Now, when you're looking at covering things with straw, that's fine if it's relatively dormant, but if it's actively growing and expanding, then that doesn't really work so well. And the problem with the greenhouse is that it's fairly boxy and a bit limited, so if you're growing stuff in a big long row, you really need to look at other alternatives to protect your plants from frost. Now, what I've done here is I've actually put together a bit of almost a little mini polytunnel, or a cloche or cloche, depending on your pronunciation. Now, to make it, what I've done is we've just got some bubble wrap here, like I said, and underneath we've just got a couple of hoops of fencing wire. Okay, now those fencing wire hoops I've cut to certain lengths. There'll be little photographs I'll put in which will show you how I've actually sort of moulded that. And then over the top I've just simply wrapped this bubble wrap, which we just managed to get from somebody who had an oven delivered. Okay, and as you can see there, it puts together a nice long tunnel which is going to protect all of those plants growing underneath there. Now, what I've got in there is some celery which I planted in May, which is really completely the wrong time to be planting celery, so it was a bit stupid of me. So this will hopefully help protect it over the winter, and maybe even give it a bit of a boost so that we will actually get some meaningful growth off it. Now, what I'm actually using to pin down this stuff here is that I've got some pegs that I've made out of old coat hangers. You could just buy some pegs if you wanted to do that, but if you've got some old coat hangers lying around, then chop them up. And at the end of each row, or at the end of each hoop, okay, this is another hoop here, I'm just pegging down that so that it's pinned down into the ground. Okay, and I'm going along, and there's 4 hoops altogether that I've used for this length. This is probably 1.5 meters long. Okay, so what's that in Pura? You're probably looking at about 4.5 feet there. So it's roughly a hoop about every 40 to 50 centimeters, or every 1.5 feet or so if you're using Imperial. You can close up the ends. What I might do here is I might actually get some closed pegs, or pin it together somehow, just to stop too much cold wind getting up there. And also, if I get too much wind in there, it's potentially going to pull this thing out of the ground. However, you can also leave it open. Okay, if you pin it down enough, the advantage of leaving it open is that it's going to get a bit more airflow through there, so it's going to be less likely to cause disease and pests for what's growing in there. but depending on how cold it is and what sort of windy conditions you've got, etc., you could kind of go either way. One thing to remember is that obviously because this is being covered up, whatever is growing in there isn't going to get any water, so I'm going to need to water it just to make sure that it does actually get the moisture. I mean, it's going to get a bit sort of soaking in from either side, but it really needs to be getting that extra bit of water. So hopefully you found that useful. By all means, post some comments below this video. I'd love to hear what you think, any feedback, any tips, any procedures that you've tried that seem to work well for you. Please do send us a message. Either you can do that, as I say, on the comments section at the bottom of this post, or if you'd like to send me an email at matt@createyourgoodlife.com, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot.